Hello.
Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Free Hours. Your boy Trevor Turner. We're back with another video. We're back with another video in our mindfulness series. Mindfulness as a path to self-discovery and growth, where we talk about practical strategies for integrating mindfulness into daily life for success, for happiness, for everything that you want to do when you live a life with distractions. And we got a special guest with us today. We have somebody who I thought would be really good for talking about stuff like this, just because of the environment that she works in, just because of the fact that I've seen her, like we work together, and I've seen her be able to remain focused. I've seen her be able to keep herself like free from distractions, keep kind of like juking the negativity and all the bullshit. And today we got with us La-Reina. Go ahead.
Hi,
and introduce
everyone.
yourself.
I'm La-Reina, and welcome.
So thank you very much for joining us, obviously. So when we talk about focus, especially in like in the context of mindfulness, what's some of the first things you think about when it comes to like ways to stay focused, when it comes to things about what can happen if you lose focus? What are some of the benefits of focus?
I think it's very important to focus just because it sets, like, for example, to help me focus, right? I have to make sure that I'm at peace. And that's one of the most important thing. Having peace, I think, helps you focus, not only to help you achieve your goals or help you handle your everyday life, but it's just that internal peace that you have that undescribable. Yeah.
And I think that's real good too, because one of the things that we think about a lot when we think about trying to get into a focus mode or trying to get into like things like that flow state or being able to do deep work, we always kind of like think about the outside distractions. We think about separating ourselves from outside factors and the other things that are going on in our lives. And we don't necessarily think about that peace and that inner turmoil, because you are who you are no matter where you go.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you carry with you, all that baggage, you're going to have that with you wherever you go. So if you're trying to focus, if you're trying to get things done, if you're trying to really get some stuff, out of the way, it really doesn't matter necessarily as much about the environment as much about that peace, right?
It's not really. You could be anywhere, even in a chaotic environment. But if you have that inner peace within yourself, I think that sets a goal. That sets a standard for the day or in your life, for that matter. Yeah.
And that really helps with, one of the things that I wanted to kind of touch on first, because, what if you could train your mind to stay focused no matter the distractions?
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about peace in the context of mindfulness, and it's basically just about being able to direct your attention intentionally toward a chosen object, task, or moment free from distraction. It's about being able to kind of get yourself out of not only the stuff that's going on around you, but any turmoil that you got within you. So what are some of the ways that you said like starting your day with focus, right? What are some of the ways that you start your day to be able to carry focus with you through the day?
One of the biggest things that I've learned, especially this year, is taking the time for myself in the morning, whether that is just laying in bed and just giving, being grateful, or praying and setting my intentions for the day. That really helps me a lot.
So let me ask you this, because I do talk about gratitudes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things I do in the morning is I kind of get some things that I'm grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
What are some tips you would give to somebody who is like struggling finding things to be grateful for when they first start doing this stuff? I know it comes easy later on,
Mm-hmm.
but like when you're first starting, you're like, damn, like what do I got to be grateful for? What are some good tips that you can help somebody to kind of shift that perspective to see?
I would say definitely start off with just being still. Like being still, whether that's just like right now, just sitting down and just meditating and just reflecting. That's the biggest thing, reflecting. What do you have now that you prayed for? Or for example, maybe there's something in your life that you've been praying for and you just didn't realize that, wait, I already have it. So definitely the biggest thing would be self-reflect. Yeah.
Self-reflection.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways that I do that too, because when I did start with the gratitudes, it was a little bit difficult. And then I do find myself, like running out of shit to, unique things to be grateful for. And I don't like, being just telling myself the same stuff over and over again. Like,
Uh-huh.
oh, I'm grateful for my job, or I'm grateful for this,
Yeah.
blah, 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 right? One
Mhm.
of the things that helped me in the morning, on my bus ride is I'll journal a couple of different things that I'm
Mhm.
thinking that I want, right?
Mhm.
And like going back to check that reflection is
Mhm.
super important. Like I think that's one of the things, and I
Very.
know that you heard what I had told, Raquel about the job, right?
Mhm.
How it was like basically a manifestation of everything that I was asking for.
Mhm.
So just to kind of give it to you, when I was in prison
Mhm.
or on the way to prison, I was like, you know what? This time is going to be different. I'm not going to get myself into the bullshit. Like I'm going to change my mindset. I'm going to spend a lot of time reading. You know what? Matter of fact, I want to get a job in the library. And I just
Mhm.
started manifesting that. I just started like focusing on that. This is what I want. I didn't think about, what I didn't want. I didn't think about, any obstacles. I just said, this is what I want. I want to be working in the prison library. I want to be, helping people
Mhm.
get books, get knowledge, all this other stuff, right?
Mhm.
And then, obviously with the amount of time that I had, I was too short time to be able to get into the library.
Mhm.
So I didn't. And I was just like, oh man, this manifesting shit don't work. Like, like it kind of rocked my little gratitude shit, right? Because I was like, man, this shit don't even work,
Mhm.
And but then I got this job, and like the first week we went down to the basement,
Mhm.
and there are all these books that we're sending into the prisons. And
Mhm.
it's just like, huh. I was so focused on like being in the library that I forgot that I was saying I wanted to be in a place where I helped people in prison get knowledge and reading.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what I'm doing.
Isn't it beautiful?
Yes.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So like it
And
really
it's
did help me
yeah.
to put it in perspective.
Mhm.
What are some of the ways, like, are there any examples like that for you where you were kind of like, oh, okay. And it kind of, you got that epiphany moment where you were like, you know what, that is something that I was.
I think definitely going to school was the biggest thing for me. I was always passionate about going to school, but then um and I think where I am right now in life, like as far as my career, I've always wanted to have a fulfilling career where I'm helping, students, and one thing led to another, and I work for, you know, in education. So that's the biggest thing for me.
Okay. So yeah, like, so you got something like every day.
Yeah.
So, well, let me ask you this. So, I know a lot of times, like work, especially a job, it can get frustrating, right?
Mm-hmm.
But knowing that that's what you wanted was, basically the job that you got, or at least like the job that you got is working towards the job that you ultimately want.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that helps you to shift that perspective to say like, okay, this frustrating day in, day out grind is what I actually prayed for?
Mm-hmm. I think just having an understanding that this is life. No matter what you do in life, no matter what degree or career you're pursuing, like there is always going to be frustration. There's always going to be drama or anything like that for that matter. I think just having that in the back of my mind and just knowing that, okay, I know what I stand for and I know my intentions for pursuing this career, then I think everything makes it so easy, because I already have that perspective and understanding. Yeah.
Okay, so you're able to kind of focus on the long run. You're able to
Yeah.
focus on where every day kind of takes you,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of keep that in the not the back of your mind, but even the forefront of your mind, and just saying like, and I definitely see that because it's something that I do that helps me kind of wash away any frustrations that I have, like with, with classes, with work, with
Mm-hmm.
anything, because it's like, this is what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I wanted as a stepping stone to get me where I ultimately want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I definitely like that one. I like that too. But let's talk about maybe some simpler day-to-day techniques that we can use.
Okay.
So I'll give you one of mine's, and then I'll ask you about one of yours. So one of the ones I do is I just deep breathing.
Mm.
I always like to, especially because like I deal with some especially when I was working in the other department. I was like, I feel like dealing with people.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to take a quick break and just take a breath.
Yes.
So for me, breathing, and I talked about this in one of my other videos, in my breathing video. But the one that I do the most is one that the Navy SEALs do. It's the box breathing technique.
Mm-hmm.
It's where you just breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, hold that for 4 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Do that like twice, and it kind of like resets everything.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I notice is that when you are getting distracted, or when a lot of things are going on, the turmoil is kind of getting to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not only do we get clenched up, but we get like, we don't breathe as
No.
deeply as normal.
Mm-mm.
So what's something that you do to kind of break yourself out of?
Um, I would say breathing too as well, but also changing my perspective. Like I have to like take myself back and be like, okay, what needs to get done, or how should I handle this without putting my emotions onto the situation. But the most important thing is after I do that, I take a walk. Just listen to music, just relax and just calm my mind, and it helps me kind of self reflect as well as like kind of evaluate the situation. How did I handle it, or how could I have done better in a sense?
Well, so let me ask you this, because I know that once you've been doing it for a minute, it's kind of easy to like recognize when you're out of your focus mode.
Yes.
But what is something that like triggers you to take that step back? What is something that triggers you to know, like, okay, I need to take this step back? What are some of the cues that you look for or recognize that help you, break out of being stuck in that rut to take that step?
When it disrupts my peace, I think. Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So when yeah, I just have to step back when I'm like, oh, I don't feel peace, or I'm starting to feel a certain way and I don't like it. That's when I have to like, okay, change your perspective, focus. What's the goal? Are you trying, or what's your intention? Are you trying to inspire, or just things like that? Yeah.
And so we use this word in I have these group therapy sessions I go to. I go every Friday or whatever. We use this word in there, rumination,
Mm-hmm.
where you just like sit there and kind of chew on certain ideas or certain feelings or certain events or whatever over and over and over and over and over again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now that you've recognized, like, okay, this situation's bringing me out of my mode.
Mm-hmm.
It's disrupted my peace, and you need to take that step back.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were first starting to do this, or what do you think you could tell some people to help them to take that step back instead of ruminating, instead of chewing on,
Mm.
or just focusing on over and over and over again that thing
Or
that happened, or that event, or that person, or the words that somebody said, or whatever the case?
I would probably say, I would probably say, like, is this situation like helping me in the long run? Is this helping me with my goals, the end goal? If it's not, then it's temporary, and that means you need to let it go. That's my biggest thing. I would say if it's something like short term, especially like a situation, I don't think you should like dwell on it, and I think you should move forward if it's not part of your vision or your mission. Yeah.
Okay, I definitely like that too.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things though is that,
Mm-hmm.
and I talk about this a lot though, is that you do need to formulate where it is that you're going.
Yes, and
You
you have
do
to have
need
vision.
you have to have that vision,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't necessarily have to have the vision of how every day is going to get you there. You don't need to know the how. You just need to know your destination.
Yeah.
And you are right, because there are two separate things for me. One of them is that I do is like, is this going to help me to being the person that I need to be, and or well, I already am the person I need to be to do all the things that I want,
Mm-hmm.
to create everything that I want to create,
Mm-hmm.
to get everywhere I want to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've been that person my entire life. Like, even when I was a kid, even when I was out there fucking up, like, I was that person.
Mm-hmm.
I was that person who was going to be doing all of the things that I said I was going to do when I finally got my mind right. I just wasn't acting accordingly.
Mhm.
And one of the things that helps me is me stewing on this or going over this in my mind. Is that acting accordingly?
Mhm.
Is that, like you said, is that going to get you to where I want to go? But
Mhm.
one of the things also is like, is this something I can change?
Mhm. That's the biggest thing.
Or is this something that I can't change?
Mhm.
Like when we were doing the whole election season, right?
Mhm.
And everybody was getting up in arms and getting upset, like on both sides, about something that other people said or something other people they thought they were going to do. Whatever the case, is that something you can directly change? Like, yeah, you can vote, but at the end of the day, after you cast your vote, like, can you change anything about it?
Mhm.
No. So it's like, I'm not going to let this like just latch on to me. I'm not going to let this take
Mhm.
me anywhere. I'm not going to let this, hold me in such a certain way. And then like stuff that other people say, any type of comments or whatever the case,
Mhm.
or even if people disagree with me, um, I don't hold, like, can I change how they feel?
No.
No. I can only change what I do.
Mhm.
I can only change how I feel.
Mhm.
So it's like, and that also helps me to look at like, if anybody does make a comment, oh, I disagree with that, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Like, okay, I can't change you disagreeing with it. So let me go ahead and like, actually get into why you disagree. Or maybe you're right. Maybe
Mhm.
I'm wrong.
Mhm.
But it helps me to get out of that feeling, helps me to focus.
Yeah. Also, you have to ask yourself. It's all about energy, right? In life, so you have to ask: Do I want to give my all my energy to that? And sometimes we forget that we have the power to decide whether, okay, hey, I have the power to change me, so I'll focus on me rather than another person or a situation. So we forget that sometimes.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
do forget that a lot. Like we do have a lot of power in our life.
we do. We hold so much power.
And I think one of the things that we do, and I did this a lot.
Mhm.
I had that victim mentality.
Mhm.
Like everything that happened is because of something else,
Yeah.
because of where I was born and who I was born to, and how I was raised, and
Mhm.
oh, they don't like me or this, that, whatever. Um and yeah, there are certain situations where other people do have power over you or control over you, whatever the case. But like at the end of the day, you do have control over what it is that you do and how you act.
Yeah, and there's just something so beautiful once you tapped into that power and just like know yourself and you're like, wait, I'm not gonna tolerate this, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna focus on me, you know? There's just something beautiful and amazing. I just yeah, I went through that and I don't know, it's just indescribable feeling. You're like, whoa, this is who I really am. This is this is me. Like, yeah.
No, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
No, definitely, 100%. I agree with that 100%. Let's kind of move this a little bit closer.
Okay.
There we go. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that because, like, that's that moment. That's that aha moment that I had
Yeah.
when I was locked up, and I was just like reading, like, and I was like, well, all the resistances to being able to focus on what I
Mhm.
was trying to do, like, well, they got me locked down, or they told on me, or they did this, or
Mhm.
I don't have these opportunities, or whatever the case, and it was just like, no, like I can change what I do
Mhm.
regardless. And it just gave me that moment like, oh shit, like I can do something for myself. Like, oh shit, I
Mhm.
can create, I can change. I don't have to, and it did help me with the focus a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Just tapping into your light. Yeah. Game
So
changer.
so what helps you tap into your light at work when you are
Mm.
maybe doing some stuff that is just like you don't want to necessarily focus on?
Mm.
Like, what helps you keep focused when you don't want to be focused? Like, when you feel like procrastinating on something, when you feel like
I just want to chill and
just
not
want to
do work.
chill and not do nothing. Like, what helps you keep that focus when the task doesn't seem like that task that's helping you get where you're trying to go?
Well, for me, it depends on the situation, but it's always um what's the end goal? Like what is the end goal? Why am I doing this? You know? Like why am I think what helps me get through things like that and help me regain focus is just knowing that why am I doing this? What's the purpose? And usually it's to help students succeed, help students take classes and things like that. So I have to do my part. That's my obligation to myself and to the students. So when that happens, I usually just grab my coffee, turn off my music, and zone out and just focus. Yeah.
Just kind of channel out all everything that's going
Yeah.
on around you.
Remove the distraction
Remove the
and
distraction. Get
focus on
to
the
it.
goal.
Shift perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times was and a lot of times that little that like what seems like or feels like busy work,
Mm-hmm.
it all leads up. It all adds up.
Mm-hmm.
It all adds up to that purpose. So you do need to do that.
And also communication is key. So for example, like my colleagues and I, if I need to really zone out and focus on my work, I will let them know like, okay, putting my headphones on, zoning out, I need to get this done. So communication is definitely key too.
So, and that is something I do talk about, setting those boundaries with coworkers and stuff. Like, how important is that to establish that communication between coworkers and stuff when it comes to things like distractions and all that? Like, how important is it, and how, when you did do that communication, how did it help you, or how much did it help you just to stay focused?
It helped me a lot because also like I feel like them knowing that I'm what I'm working on, and I think it's setting a standard as well in the office. I think ever since I started doing that, everybody just basically has that standard for themselves. Like, hey, I'm gonna take a walk to just regain focus, or I don't want to be disturbed at this time. I got to get this done. So I think it sets like a standard, and also like kind of self respect for yourself. That like, hey, this is this is the goal, and I need to get it done. Like it's sometimes hard to set boundaries, though, don't you think?
I think it is a little bit
Yeah.
hard to set boundaries. That's what I
It
was
is
actually
because you're
gonna.
like, wait, are they gonna say something? Like, am I too much, or you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, which is why I was gonna ask you for some tips on how to set those boundaries. Like, what are some of the ways that you approach kind of dealing with that? I know, like, people like me, I'm very blunt person, so I'll just be like, hey, like, from this time to this time, this is what I'm working on, like, you know. But at the same time, if I really rock with a person, like their
Mm-hmm.
energy and everything like that, like, it's very easy for me to just be like, well, maybe I won't tell them this time. If they come over to talk to me, or if they want to go get lunch or something, like, oh no, I'll go with you,
Yeah,
even though I'm working on like a super important project
yeah,
or homework or whatever. They're like, hey, you want
yeah.
to go get some coffee? Hell yeah, I do.
Let's go.
So what's some tips for like setting those boundaries, like not only navigating around how you think they might feel about it, but like to help you remember the importance of setting those boundaries? Like, what are
um,
some of the tips that you might have?
for now, I think I just have an understanding that we're all adults. So like, it's for me, it's like communication is key, right? So I have to let them know how I feel or what I'm doing or whatnot because they're not psychics. They're not gonna know. So I think definitely just talking to them about it, and I would like to think that if there is an issue, that they would tell me because we've been working for so long. If that makes sense.
It
Yeah.
definitely does.
Yeah. So there's that self respect too. And then we support each other in a way that like, hey, do you need some time to work on things, or do you just need some me time? I got this. Like, how can I help you? Because it's all about also taking care of each other
Very,
as well
very
as
true.
yourself.
That's definitely true.
Hmm.
And one of the things I noticed too is that the communication does help. Like,
Hmm.
because I try my best not to make any assumptions or take things personally, right?
Hmm.
But I still fall into that, even though I'm super mindful of it all the time.
Hmm.
So it's like knowing that it is easy to kind of take things like in the wrong way.
Hmm.
Communication and just be like, hey, no, this isn't about you.
Hmm.
It's about like me not being able to focus.
Hmm.
It's about me needing this time to do
Hmm.
and really dive into this work. It's about me. It's not
Hmm.
about you. It's not an attack. It's
Yeah,
not,
it's not. Mm-mm.
And I think that communication does help alleviate that, and it makes like everything kind of go
Hmm.
in a better way. So they're not sitting over. You're not thinking that they're sitting over there like, oh,
Hmm.
they think I'm a distraction or whatever, blah blah blah. And it's like, well, yeah, you are a distraction, but it's because I like you. It's not because I don't like you. Like if I didn't
Yeah.
like you, I'd be able to zone you out if you're sitting there talking to me.
Yeah.
And I think communication does help with that because, like you said, they are. We aren't psychics, but at
No,
the
we're
end of the day,
not.
we are
Sometimes we
adults.
assume that people know what we're thinking about or going through, but they don't. They have their own lives too. They have their own mind, their own thoughts. Yeah.
And every people do have their own expectations, their own
Exactly.
communication styles,
Mm-hmm.
the way they were raised, the way they expect, interpersonal relationships to be,
Mm-hmm.
and it's always one of the things I go back to. And it fits just because it was an expectation that came out of nowhere that kind of showed me like, okay, some people were, they're different.
Mm-hmm.
They assume and expect different things without communicating them to you. Like when somebody says like, you should have known better. Like, you're an adult, I shouldn't have to explain that to you. And it's like, well, just because you wanted that or you thought that that was the standard doesn't mean that that's adult
Yeah.
stuff. Like you expect, you have like an expectation of certain things or certain ways of looking at things,
Mm-hmm.
and people look at things differently.
They do. Everybody has their own perspective. Yeah.
So let me ask you this: when you first started to really like dive into getting focused on work and personal endeavors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Were you able to just like do your marathon focus sessions, or did you have to build them up? Like, did you have to start small and build up?
I had to start small and build up. It was hard in the beginning because like I'm like, it's just easy just to just lay down or just scroll on your phone. It's like you really had to set time for yourself. Like, okay, if you're gonna say I'm gonna meditate, then you meditate at that time. Don't shortcut it. It's gonna help build that foundation for the future. That makes sense.
Yeah, definitely makes sense.
Yeah, it just definitely no. It was not easy, but then I think there's just something beautiful too, because like once you start having that discipline and that drive and that focus and that goal, it just everything takes off. You start focusing on other things in life, and then you're like, wait a minute, I'm already here. I've been doing this for a while. Um, yeah, but foundation is key for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, because it is something that I do talk about a lot, especially with the whole concept of the free hour.
Mhm.
The concept is like everybody has a free hour of their day
Mhm.
to implement new things into their lives, and it's like, well, I want to change my whole life, and I want to do all of these things all at once, and I want to get all of this work done, and then you find like I'm able to dive into stuff a little bit,
Mhm.
but I can't like focus for 2, 3, 4 hours on something when I haven't been focusing on 2, 3, 4 hours on this stuff
Mhm.
before. Like, it's like building a muscle.
Mhm.
It takes practice, it takes consistency, it
It
takes
does.
discipline. And discipline beats out not only procrastination, but discipline beats out motivation.
Mhm.
Because there are going to be days you don't feel like doing this shit.
Exactly.
And a lot more days where you don't feel like it than days where you feel like it.
Mhm.
But there are going to be days that you wanted to, like, at the end of the day, you'll be like, you know what, I should have did more, or I should have did better.
Mhm.
And being able to have that consistency
Mhm.
is key. And so one of the things that I talk about, and I recommend a lot, is to start small.
Mhm.
So
Baby steps.
baby steps. So what
Mhm.
do you think? What are some of the baby steps you took, and why is it important to start with the baby steps?
Well, it's important to start with baby steps for sure because it sets the foundation, um, and just sets the standard for yourself. And what was your other question? Sorry.
Um, like why? What are some of the baby steps that you kind of did for yourself?
So I know that I wanted to start my day with prayer, right? So I just what I did was before I go to gym, I just set that actually inspired me to start praying in the morning or just doing like gratitude. So before I even touch my phone or anything like that, I just begin just whether it's just 5 minutes or less than 5 minutes, as long as I know that I follow through with what I say. That's the biggest thing. I think doing that gives you that self respect. So definitely I just started off with like 5 minutes of prayer. And then it just took off from there, and I just can't start my day without having some sort of doing my gratitude, prayer, and setting my intention for the day.
And you know what? That does kind of, it builds into accomplishment, does kind of help build focus.
Mhm.
Because if you're able to accomplish what you set out to do in the morning,
Mhm.
then you carry that with you.
Yep,
No
you do.
matter how small it is, it might seem like,
Mhm.
when you start to set the very small goals, it might seem like, you know what, this isn't enough.
Mhm.
But then when you're carried through like all the way towards lunchtime and you're kind of feeling hungry and starting to get tired and stuff, and you're like, no, I've been doing everything I said I was going to do
Yeah,
today. So I'm going to continue to do that.
it's having the accountability as well. And then just knowing that you're doing those for yourself. It's not respect for others, it's just respect for yourself because you want to do better. And when you know better, you do better, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. When you know better, when you
Yeah,
knew better, you do better. If
for
you knew better, you do
sure.
better. So yeah, no, definitely because when I started with my morning stuff,
Mhm.
because I do SAVERS, I do 6 things in the morning.
Okay.
Um, and trying to do too much of them, it's like, okay, I didn't have time to do all of this. I didn't have time to do this. I didn't have time to do that.
Mhm.
Or I wasn't capable, like my mind wasn't focusing enough to do it for long enough or whatever the
Mhm.
case. So I started the day with like a setback. I
Mm.
wouldn't call it a failure. I started the day with like a learning opportunity, whatever the case. But
Mhm.
that would turn into everything else becoming a learning opportunity, setback, or like I
Mm.
didn't have time or I wasn't able to. So what I did was I started very small. I started like, okay, just rattle off 10 things you're grateful for, and that's your silence for the morning.
Yep.
That's your prayer, that's your meditation,
Mhm.
whatever the case. Like, like when I first started, I couldn't sit down and like sit cross-legged and have my back straight without it hurting a lot.
Mhm.
So I was just like, just lay in bed and rattle off 10 things you're grateful for. So that way you don't start off with a struggle
Mhm.
and then get up in the mirror and say, you know what, I got this today. Give yourself some good affirmations. Even if you don't necessarily like believe that money flows to you freely and easily,
Yeah.
you might believe like, you know what, I look good today.
Mhm.
Or you know what?
And I think it's also important for you to give yourself grace and that nothing is perfect. Like a book, for example, could give you like, okay, these are the 10 steps, but it might not work for you. So you have to find what works for you. And then you go from there and then you just give yourself grace.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
definitely do gotta give yourself that grace because and that's one of the reasons I like starting small
Mm-hmm.
is to give yourself that grace because I going cold turkey off a lot of negative habits and shit is hard.
It is. And that's life. You have to, my thing in life is you have to find your rhythm, like dance with your own rhythm kind of thing. And
Dance
find
with
what works for you because what works for another person might not work for you.
definitely.
Yeah,
And starting small will help you figure out that too. Like, you know what?
exactly.
This shit don't work for me.
Mm-mm.
That does not
So
work for
you
me.
have to pivot,
You have
and
to
that's
pivot.
that's life.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So we got about 30 some minutes in. Let's talk about a couple of different techniques here.
Mm-hmm.
Um I like to touch on the science of it real quick, so I'm gonna do my science thing.
Okay.
So Dr. Amishi Jha, I think this is how you say that name,
Mm-hmm.
found that mindfulness training enhances sustained attention and reduces mind wandering.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about mindfulness training,
Mm-hmm.
that is basically what you were saying that you did. And the science of it says that focusing on one thing at a time, it strengthens the prefrontal cortex and it improves your ability to resist distractions and sustain concentration.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that that's what the study found, give me the anecdotal evidence in your life how after you had like eliminated distractions, started setting boundaries, um, pivoted and changed your perspective so many different times,
Mm-hmm.
how much easier did it become to be able to sustain the focus, to get back into the focus mode, like over time?
I think it became, um, I think it became a lot easier. You have to. I feel like you have to focus on one thing, right? Um, and that could be your mental health, or it could be your intention for the day, or something like that. I think what will help me focus longer is just being consistent as well. Being consistent and just focus on one thing at a time. Um, yeah, consistency is key.
Consistency is key. And then single tasking, right?
Yeah, single tasking. You can't. I feel like if you focus on so many things at once, you'll get overwhelmed, and you'll feel like, oh, I can't accomplish so many things. I can't do it. So you have to focus on one thing at a time and always set your intention. Why are you focusing on that? And then once that's done, I feel like everything flows. There's just something about the flow of things, and then you'll move on to the next thing you want to focus on.
And yeah, we talk about the flow. I talk about the flow state a lot. Like when you focus on one good thing,
Mm-hmm.
one thing that's like mentally stimulating and a little bit challenging, like, but you're able to put it in that perspective of this is helping me get to where I want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that, you have to put some effort into.
Mm-hmm.
You won't, some people might feel like autopilot where they're just doing it,
Mm-hmm.
but some people might feel like tunnel vision.
Mm.
But you can't get that tunnel vision, you can't get that flow if you're multitasking.
You cannot.
Like if you're trying to bounce around from one thing to the other. And I think, me personally, that even though I'm capable of multitasking,
Mm-hmm.
when I multitask, the quality of my results goes down.
Yes, and also you have to think too, like it's a journey, right? Everything is a journey. So when you focus on so many things, you're not really grasping what you need to learn or what you need to know to move on to the next. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's why single tasking is important. I encourage everyone just to focus on one task at a time rather
Mm-hmm.
than multitasking.
Mm-hmm.
Because multitasking can lead to distractions. It can lead to reduced effectiveness. Like if you're willing to bounce from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, what'll happen is that anything new thing that comes in, you'll be more willing to pivot and bounce to that away from what it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I noticed when I would try to multitask, like, even at work and stuff, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to do two or three different things and I'm constantly shifting focus,
Mm-hmm.
whenever somebody else comes up to me, it's easier for me to shift focus to them too.
Yes.
And now I forgot the 2-3 things that I was trying to do to begin with.
Yeah.
Has that ever kind of happened to you?
It has, especially with the work that we do. I mean, there's a huge traffic that comes in, and while I'm focusing or doing something that needs really my attention, I do get distracted. However, I just need to like stop myself, remember where I stopped, where I'm stopping, and then be present. Actually, being present is important. With that.
Yeah, being present is
Yeah.
100% important. So, and one of the things I recommend for the single tasking is set specific uninterrupted times to work
Mhm.
on one project or activity fully.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about a lot over on the productivity series, time blocking.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about batching, which is where you put like similar groups of activities together in your time blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about using calendars for even the tasks that you do every single day. So like if you come to work and do the same thing every single day
Mm-hmm.
at 9 o'clock, you should still put that in your calendar or whatever. So that way, you know for a fact, like this is an uninterrupted time for that
Mhm.
project.
Yes.
Another thing that works is setting a focus timer. Like when you're first going to start, like how you said, I'm going to pray for 5 minutes. I'm going to do it at this time.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically the same thing. It's kind of setting a time for you to focus, and it's setting an amount of time for you to focus,
Mm-hmm.
but it's doing it in a smaller way that can help you gradually build focus stamina over time. And it's one of them is like the Pomodoro technique. Set a timer for your focus work or mindfulness practice. Work for 25 minutes, followed by a 5-minute break
Mm-hmm.
to help sustain the concentration. One of the things that they even say to do, and they suggest this for students, is to read or study for 45 minutes, take that 15-minute break, and then move on to something else.
Yes. Helps you regain focus.
Helps you regain focus. And the reason they say that also is because unless you've taken years and years, like it takes a long time to build up like focus stamina on stuff that you do not necessarily want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You do need those breaks.
You do.
You do need those breaks,
Mm-hmm.
and you do need to get there. So we talked about some of the science behind it, talked about all those things. We talked about managing distractions. We talked about starting small. We talked about some of the ways to help set our intention during the day. We talked about some of the ways to help regain our intention during the day. And let's close out with a good quote. What do you think would be something you would leave with people to tell them not only the importance of focus, but the importance of, starting small, or just give us a quote in your mind about focus, whether it's how to get to it, how to stay there, or why it's important.
I would say,
I know, right? This is
this
difficult.
is hard. I know I'll just go with what comes to my mind right now about like just having focus is I think it's a form of love, right? So take the time to love yourself and to focus on you, and everything will just follow through. But you have to give yourself a chance to just focus on one thing that you want to do for yourself, whether that's like a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and just give yourself that chance. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
I actually wanted to share something too as well.
Go ahead.
So we were just talking about like something, your story about the library thing, right? So this year, for some odd reason, and this is something that would have not thought about, but I was like, wouldn't it be so amazing if I was a guest doing a podcast? So I was like, wow, I just had this thing today. Like I just checked that off my list today. So thank you.
Well, hopefully you can get on a better podcast sometime in the future too, or a more watched podcast also.
Yeah, but to think about it, this is
I mean, it is technically a podcast,
yeah.
but
But I'm building that foundation now, and it begins here. It's
now
important.
now when you get on a better one, you'll know what to do.
Yes, and I think I'll be more prepared.
You'll be like, "Hey, the microphone is in my face.
Yeah,
It's
but
blocking.
it's okay.
It's blocking." So I got a quote too.
Mhm.
I cheated though. I have it written down already,
Mm.
so I don't have to pull it out of the air.
You should have told me.
So this one's by Bruce Lee. It's the successful warrior is the average man, but with laser-like focus.
I love that.
Focus can make anything that you're trying to do, any venture, any type of endeavor, make it that much better. And it can make it to where it can make the difference between, night and day when it comes to anything that you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that kind of builds into like knowing that you are who you are for a reason.
Mm.
You were born enough. You were born who you needed to be. You were born on purpose and for a purpose. If you focus that, whatever your talents are, whatever it is that you want to bring to the world, if you focus on that, that's where you become the successful warrior.
I love that.
And then also it's just basically like, what's the difference between a successful man and an unsuccessful man? Literally, it's only success.
Mm-hmm.
Is what helps. It's like, do you stop before success? Do you focus enough to get to success? Like, that's all it is.
It's all about the focus.
It's all about the focus.
Mind.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching the free hour. Had a special guest on today. This
Thank
one
you
was a
so
great
much.
one. I thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you.
And make sure you comment. If you like the video, like the video. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. More of this is going to be coming. Thank you very much. It's your boy Trevor Turner.
Bye.